So given that the 19-year-old Stade Rennes French wonderkid only has a contract at the club until 2026, and Ligue 1 sides are struggling somewhat financially due to the fall of the league's sponsorship earnings, I think United should be looking to sign Désiré Doué this summer for between £35 to £40 million, maybe with add-ons up to 50, and that's because Doué would provide something that United's squad currently lacks, and looking very stylistically similar to Jadon Sancho, in the sense that both players almost resemble what you define as a street player, or even a 7-a-side player, being incredibly good in congested areas, making Doué of massive value against compact defensive units when he needs to receive the ball between the lines and with one or two quick touches, link the play before looking to create a chance or get a shot off around the box. However, I think Doué could have what Jadon Sancho lacks, and that is continued decisiveness throughout a game when receiving the ball. While Sancho has a similar sort of intricate dribbling ability to the likes of Musiala, Wirtz and Doué, I just don't think he uses it enough, as I think he's just far too indecisive, not making the decision to drive past a pressing player quickly enough, and so this is why we don't see Sancho progress the ball into dangerous positions as much as we do with Doué, Musiala and Wirtz. Now don't get me wrong, at this point Doué definitely isn't at Musiala or Wirtz's level, but I definitely think he has the potential. As of natural ability alone, the eye test is fairly conclusive when deciding that Doué is already bordering on elite quality in flashes, but we can also see this statistically as well. But before I come on to that, if you want to pick up any of the Euro 2024 or new season jerseys, go over to Jersey FIFA, they've got retro club and international jerseys as well. If you use code Atlantis at checkout you'll get a discount, a link will be in my Instagram bio which I will leave linked in the description. So we can also see statistically that the teenager is producing some fairly impressive output. When compared against all other attacking midfielders and wingers in Europe's top 5 leagues over the past 365 days, Doué doesn't yet produce the output in the final third to match the likes of Musiala and Wirtz, recording a non-penalty XG in just the 21st percentile, although he does overperform his non-penalty XG by 0.03 per 90, with his non-penalty goals ranking in the 39th percentile. His XG assisted is slightly better, sitting around the 50th percentile. However, when it comes to his ball progression metrics, we can see Doué's quality, as he ranks in the mid 90th percentiles for his progressive passes and his passes into the penalty area, as well as between the 75th and 85th percentile range for his crosses into the penalty area and his overall passes into the final third. Now I do think he does need to retain possession a bit better, as his pass completion rates, certainly for his short passes, aren't as high as you would like, although he is a very forward thinking player, and so like with Bruno Fernandes, he has a sort of creativity where it makes sense to try not to stifle them as much, with the burden of retaining possession, as Pep does with the likes of Bernardo Silva and Grealish. However, it's when we look at Doué's ball carrying and dribbling metrics where we can see he's a future star, as he ranks in the 94th percentile for the amount of take-ons he's completed, as well as the 99th percentile, the top 1%, for the percentage of take-ons he completes, whilst also ranking in the top 1% for his carries into the final third, and slightly lower around the 70th percentile for both his progressive carries and his carries into the final third, showcasing that even at 19, Doué is amongst the very best attacking midfielders and wingers when it comes to his ability to beat players in 1v1s and progress the ball forward quickly through open space. And it's not just in possession where Doué statistically looks very impressive, as defensively, quite surprisingly actually, he begins to look like a complete package. But before I show you the defensive part of his FB ref report and come on to how he could improve Ten Hag's counter press, how would a transfer for Doué actually come about? So if United were to sell Rashford and either loan out Sancho with an obligation to buy next summer, or even sell him permanently this summer, this could bring in anywhere from £80 to £110 million and get around £25 million off the wage bill. With that money, I'd bring in Nico Williams and Désiré Doué. Williams will likely be around £10 to £11 million as a starting salary, given that at Athletic Bilbao, because of their unusual transfer policy, he's currently on about £8.8 million already. However, Doué's starting salary should be closer to £5 to £7 million, allowing United to save around £5 to £8 million on the wage bill yearly, and more or less cover the transfer fees of Doué and Williams when replacing Sancho and Rashford. And to be honest, the deal all round makes sense to me. Williams will provide the direct dribbling ability and pacing behind that United currently lack, whilst Doué would provide the intricacy and ball progression when central between the lines. You do of course lose the goal scoring ability of Rashford, though I think given Williams' arrival would need a slight change of the system in relation to the centre forward, central midfielders and fullback on that side. I don't think this is a major issue, as I definitely think the improvement that both Williams and Doué would provide tactically for the whole system would be worth it. However, the issue with a Desiree Doué transfer to Manchester United, from a tactical and squad building point of view, is the likely arrival of Joshua Zirkzee. If Ten Hag wanted Rasmus Højlund as his starting number 9, then I think it makes sense to move on Marcus Rashford and bring in a more natural winger like Nico Williams, who is a much better 1v1 dribbler and a high quality crosser off of both feet from either flank, compared with Rashford, and so would provide more service for Højlund. But Joshua Zirkzee on the other hand requires more of a goal scoring wide attacker, who is going to be able to break ahead into the space that he vacates, which suits Rashford a lot more than Williams. And whilst Højlund's advanced positioning alongside the centre backs and movement in behind the back line would stretch the space between the opposition's midfield and defensive line for Doué to move into and look to receive the ball, Zirkzee's deeper movement would do the opposite, which would force Doué to have to make a lot more forward runs ahead of the ball rather than looking to receive the ball to feet. Zirkzee does look like a done deal at this point, so I'll talk more about how he and Rashford would work tactically in a separate video, but in regards to Doué, he is a player who in isolation I would love at Manchester United, but I just don't think the budget is going to be there for him this summer, particularly if Marcus Rashford was to stay.